So this nonsense right here is the bane of my existence when it comes to kitchens with dark colored cabinets, but it's not so bad when you think about it. When you think about the flash placement, it makes sense that this is over here and it lights up this area, and then this is over here and it lights up this area. But the problem is that you end up with these kind of like, it's not reflections, it's more like a shine or shimmer or glare, I should say, of the flash being reflected into the cabinet. So you see it here, and it's really obvious right here, but there is a fix to this without having to resort to the ambient, which is typically what I don't like to do, because the ambient shot typically is, it's iffy sometimes. You know, like the colors in this are pretty bad. Maybe a white balance adjustment could fix it, but they're pretty, they're not usable basically. So this is definitely going to go into luminosity mode, but the problem is when you go into luminosity mode, this happens right here. So what's happening? Basically, the underlying layer, which is our flash layer, has the color of the cabinets right here, but once you get up here, all that color is basically gone because of our flash shined into the cabinets. So if we have this here, this luminosity layer, you can see it's getting the color of that bottom cabinet perfectly because all that color information is there. But this right here, there's no color information here. So it's not going to blend well at all. It's just going to turn like that dark kind of gray. Same thing with this side. So you see that there's no color information here. It's all dark. So what's it going to do? What's it going to do? It's going to turn gray. So it's not going to look that great. So as you can see, this is kind of like, this is not looking good. So we need to go ahead and fix that. And how we do that is basically, it's all about flash placement. So your flash placement really is like crucial in these sort of situations. So I went ahead and took a flash shot just straight up behind the camera, and you can see I have glare in the cabinet right here, but if we go back to that first shot, there's no glare in this cabinet. So we can use this to brush in the glare that's on this side of the cabinet, or on this side of the image, into these cabinets, and then use this one as well to brush in this cabinet. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and blend these two images by putting a layer mask over it, going to the gradient tool, and I'm going to change my gradient to foreground to transparent. So let's go ahead and change up our foreground color. Let's go ahead and change it to on black. And we're going to go hold down shift and go from the left side to the right side. And as you can see, I did it wrong. And I meant to do this, by the way, because it's a weird kind of thing where you can start from the very wrong side if you're doing this kind of like gradient blending. So when you have something like this, it's actually really easy to fix. All you have to do is just invert the mask. So let's go ahead and hit Command or Control I, and it inverts, and now you're good to go. So all we got to do is just brush in the areas that we don't want. So let's go ahead and get our brush tool over here, and I'm going to change our opacity to about 100%. Flow, I'm going to change it to like 15. Smoothing is fine as it is. And then I'm going to start, now this is kind of easy to figure out, but it might be a little bit not easy to figure out for some people, but the way you figure out like where you're going to paint black and where you're going to paint white is just by the layer mask. So if you hold Option and click on the layer mask, it shows you basically where you're going to be putting your white and your black paintbrush. So You can also check by looking at the layer thumbnail right here. But we're going to go ahead and paint black right here. And as you can see, it's just getting rid of that flash light stand. And then I'm going to swap the colors. You can hit X on your keyboard, or you can go over here and just hit these arrow keys. Or these, actually, they're not arrow keys. They're just arrows. And then just paint where you want to get rid of the flash. So that looks pretty good. You can see I still got this area a little bit too bright. It looks really weird, especially if you zoom it out, it's really noticeable. So what we're gonna do is we can fix that. It's still there. Yeah, it's still there. We're gonna fix that with our behind the camera flash. So I usually duplicate this twice, or not twice. I usually duplicate this once, and then I use 2 layers. I use one of them in darken mode, and I use one of them in normal mode. So let's go ahead and actually put this in a black layer mask by holding down Alt or Option, add layer mask, and I'm going to do the same thing with this top one. And we're going to set the top one to darken. And I want to use the darken one to blend in these cabinets. So I want to get rid of the shine from the cabinets with the darken layer. So that's pretty simple to do. All you got to do is paint, and there you go. And you can use it in other areas too, where there's a shine. So I like to do that right there, and then I'll use the normal layer for this ceiling. So I usually go ahead and use a little gradient, and I'm gonna bring that down. And that looks pretty good. So that's pretty simple to do. Now we got to go ahead and blend the ambient in, and we can do that in Luminosity because there's no color shine or anything. Color shine, that's not a word. That's not a phrase. There's no shine. Oh, it's too early. It's 7 a.m. So there's no shine or anything like that. So you can see with the luminosity layer active, you can see all that color information. This is a nice brown, this is a nice brown, this is a nice brown. It's not that craziness that we had earlier. So let's go ahead, and I don't want to blend all of this. We're going to go ahead and put a black layer mask over this. So holding down Alt or Option, add layer mask. And we're just going to blend in the areas that we want. So I think it's looking pretty good so far, but I think we can add a little bit of highlight right there, a little bit of highlight right there, just to open up those shadows. I'm gonna put some here, never mind, that looks bad. I'm gonna put some right there, and I'm gonna bring out, whoops, too much. I'm gonna bring out some of these shadows that are right here. Give a little highlight right there. Perfect. So that looks pretty good. And I think that's actually it. The last thing I would do is I would highlight all these layers by holding down Shift and clicking from the top to the bottom. And I would go to Layer, Flatten Image, or use one of my actions that does it for me. And then I would go ahead and save it in Lightroom. So, fairly simple stuff so far. And how you get... Oh, this is cool. If you ever have these like white edges from your auto align, basically all you got to do is just go down here and then transform and scale it to, I don't know, 101, 102. I have a preset that does 102 for me, but that's pretty cool. You don't have to go in and crop, so like it's not that weird to go in and crop, but it's a little bit finicky. You got to get it like perfect. So that's how you do it, and that's pretty much it. If you guys don't want any kind of tutorials about certain things or whatnot, just let me know and I'll try and get to them. So that's pretty much it. Have a good morning, good night, good afternoon, whatever time it is. Time zones are weird. Alright guys, take care.